Shalom and welcome to our YouTube teaching on the fear of trusting others and how you can regain trust once trust is broken.
One of the things I think that is most important, Yana, is how do we trust again when that has been interfered with in our life, even from childhood, because a child begins to develop coping mechanisms when that trust has been broken. So we want to talk to you or with you today about an ancient form of trust and how that looks from a Hebraic perspective. There are a couple of words that Hebrew uses for trust, but the one we're going to focus on today is the word batak. Batak. All right? It is spelled with a bait, a tet, and a chet. And if we look at those particular letters in their pre-existence to when they were not letters, but
Pictorial form.
that's it.
Now, how would you spell that word in English? Just for those of you that aren't the Hebrew scholars out there. Because I'm thinking maybe one or two aren't.
Okay.
So,
It would be a B, a T, and a CH sound, kind of with a guttural, a ch, like that. Batak, okay? So when we take those to pictorial form, the bait represents a house. The tet, which is the T sound, represents like a basket that holds something inside of it. And the CH or the chet sound represents like a boundary or a fence that separates something on the inside from something on the outside.
oh, that's good.
All right?
Yeah.
And so when we draw the picture of this, and this is how we study Hebrew, this is how we understand the concepts in Hebrew, that we now paint the picture of the beit, the tet, the chet is this, that it is a house that is surrounded by a wall. In other words, trust is this. For those who are inside the house, and then the house is surrounded by a wall, it keeps you in the safety or the support system within, and the chaos and the craziness outside. And not only outside the house, but outside the wall that surrounds the house. So it becomes a support system that you hold on to. And another modern day picture that I could perhaps draw for you is this. If you are in an ice storm and you're holding on to a rail as you're walking down a steep hill, then you're holding on to that rail as a support system. And it's okay as long as that rail doesn't fall. So that's what trust is. It becomes a support system, a place of safety for you to be yourself, to express yourself. So my question to you today is, Yana, is this. When someone has had their trust broken in an intimate relationship, a family situation going on,
even in friendships.
In religious situations,
the workplace.
Exactly, across the board. When they have had that trust broken, and they now have developed a fear of, can I really, trust that person? How do they regain trust?
Yeah, that's really, really good. And thank you for sharing that. That is our perspective. That's why we're called the Hebrew Sisters, because we believe that the ancient way has some truths and some beautiful things there. And so we're pulling those forward. So basically what we know from this word, betach, for trust, is that without trust you have no support. Without trust you don't have a wall of protection to keep you within yourself. So now, when trust is broken, the environment is a frightening place. Anything can come in. So we have to have trust to have the life that you want. And you're asking, how do I do that? Because deep inside of you, you realize that trust is necessary for your wholeness. Trust is necessary for you to live in peace on the inside. Well, there's some new ways of trust that are available now. They're being taught. And so we're using the quantum principles of wellness and the Hebraic way of life to bring to you some new concepts. Sir Isaac Newton said this, that trust was about what you could see, taste, touch, and feel.
That's good.
And hear. Isaac Newton. You know, the apple fell from the tree, and it's a large object in comparison to the quantum, which is a minuscule, almost invisible portion or size. And so he could measure if the apple weighed this much, how long it would take to fall to the earth. In the quantum realm, it's about the minuscule and how the minuscule moves and forms and creates a cause and effect in our lives today. So let me take it from theory now into something practical.
That's good.
If you are dependent upon your senses to determine trust or the level of trust, then you're going to have a lot of problem in life, and you will move in and out of situations that will be chaotic. You'll trust for a while and then you'll find reason not to, because everything is based upon the senses. If you can shift or choose to shift to the quantum model that says all things are possible,
That's good.
and if you will place your intent, this is my intent, to be able to trust somebody, to be able to regain trust, and you begin to observe, look at, connect with, feel the desired outcome, then from the quantum realm, that desired outcome will energetically move to you. Now that may sound like a lot of hocus pocus, but it really does work. So the quantum says this: whatever you observe, you give power to. Whatever you connect with gets strength. So if you're thinking all day long, can't trust them, thought I could trust them, don't know if I can trust them, and your whole world, your whole universe is based on those senses, because you've learned, like we all have at some point, that some situations are not trustworthy. If you're just in the realm of this reality, but not in the realm of the reality of what could be, and you're thinking about what you've seen, what you've experienced here, and that's where your energy goes, that's where your time goes, that's where your observation goes, and you just keep saying, well, they're on their phone again, I wonder who they're texting, and they were home 10 minutes later, they said they had a meeting, and I don't believe they're at the meeting. Then guess what? That's what will manifest. Where you put your attention is what becomes your reality. In the quantum realm, even though I may have that feeling, if I want to unseat the voice of trust on the inside, I must begin engaging with everything I can trust. I can trust that that person cares about me. I can trust, because that's the outcome I desire, that that person, although they did these behaviors, is making real changes. And I can see it. Instead of putting the plate down on the counter for me to clean up later, they put it in the dishwasher. Or, he picked up his socks. Or, she went to the grocery store and got my favorite foods that she cares about. We can find what we look for. There's this ancient thing that says what you seek for, you find. In the quantum realm, where all things are possible, and by your intent, which means by your thoughts and your feelings, you get to choose the outcome. If you'll begin to think that outcome, if you'll begin to feel your feelings align with that outcome, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have that outcome where you put your attention. Your attention, once again, are your thoughts and your feelings. And as you look at that, as you think about that, you begin to step into the world of trust. And only in the world of trust, Darla, just like you said, is a place of support
Yes.
and a place of security.
Yeah. I think one of the things we have to remember is this, that trust is a thing that you share with people who are on your inside circle.
Yes.
It's not that you're going to walk into a grocery store or a place and just all of a sudden say, oh, I'm going to trust them, or they come up and they tell you something and that just becomes the truth, because not everything that is spoken is truth. And so I think you've said something really, really important. There's a rabbinical story that the rabbis say, what you put your eye on is what you see. And sometimes, like if you're driving through a parking lot and the parking lot looks full, and all of a sudden way down at the end, probably the furthest one away from the store, you see a parking spot. And so you put your eye on that parking spot, and as you're going to it, you don't see 2 or 3 other parking spots on the way because you've got your eye on
So true.
that one. And so I think, Yana, if you would talk for just a second about changing the energy. How do we change that energy
Yes.
so that we're no longer, focused on this particular issue?
We change the energy by changing how we think, and we change how we feel. So if we have all this, from the time I was a child, I couldn't trust this person, the more we retell the story of what brought the distrust, the bigger the story becomes. So we stop telling the story. We stop talking about how this one's untrustworthy, and that politician, and this loved one, and that teacher back when, or that loved one back when. We stop telling the stories that reinforces the thoughts of that someone is not trustworthy or it's dangerous to trust, because when we think those thoughts instruct our heart.
That's good.
And we start finding the things that are trustworthy.
That's it.
One of the greatest, two more ideas. Number 1, expectations. Don't set people up to be the fulfillment of your heart. Don't set expectations that are unreasonable for someone whose character may not measure up. That way, you're expecting them to be someone that they're not. Expectations, moderate those. And the last one I want to talk about is trusting yourself. A lot of times, trusting someone else is more about trusting yourself.
That's it, right?
Do you trust yourself? And if we don't trust ourselves, it's impossible to trust another person.
That's good.
So maybe it's time to look inward. Maybe it's time to stop reviewing our history of all the times when trust has been broken, because what we look at is what happens in our life. What we give our attention to by our thoughts and feelings, by our words of our mouth, grows stronger and bigger. And to change, pivot our attention. Pivot our thoughts, pivot our feelings, which will cause our words to begin to form and shape that which we really want and desire.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this short teaching today. We have others, and we hope that you will find us on our YouTube channel called The Hebrew Sisters. I'm Darla Fields.
And I'm Dr. Yana Sanders, and we'll be back with you next week. And once again, we are
The Hebrew Sisters.